Hey Nicole, good job. Your paper was exciting for me to read. It convinced me that educating the next generation is one of the best things we can possibly do to address this problem. It was encouraging to find that they actually have some open-mindedness, unlike some of their parents. You've talked about specific resources for the classroom and how to do teaching without getting straight into controversy and conflict with parents. And you talk about how students are ready to learn. And you're including more evidence than you did in the last paper, so that's all excellent. Good, you're making progress. All right, so some next steps. The first one is about sources. I don't get the sense that you're using databases yet for this topic. It looks like these have all come off of the web. And they look like pretty strong sources. I'm not sure about the energy and depth, Steve Everly. But the others look like good, strong sources. However, they're not peer-reviewed. So the strongest one here that I saw, for example, was the one from Yale about American teens' knowledge of climate change. It's a nice write-up of a study they did, and it looks like it was done scientifically and so forth, but it doesn't talk anything about peer reviewers. If it were in a journal, someone else would have gone over their data and talked about it and thought about it and so forth. And there's not evidence that they had that review process of critically being looked at. They've got names of people they acknowledge, so they're certainly talking with others, but it's often good if they go to a journal, because then the journal sends it off to people who don't know them, who don't know who did it, who aren't necessarily their best friends, and can be really objective and say, yeah, this works, or actually it doesn't. So, Nicole, if you're not sure how to use the databases, please talk with me or a librarian, and we're happy to help you. But that's the biggest requirement of the paper that's still missing here. Next, organization. So you start the paper by saying that literacy is key. Then your first paragraph talks about how teachers need to do this. And then you talk about controversy and politics in that paragraph. And then you say most Americans think that climate change is real. And then you say, well, you can know things but still be disengaged. And so we need to go to the classroom. So even on that first page, you're doing more than one topic in that first paragraph. And it will help if you just start with one topic and stick to it through the whole paragraph. In the next page, you've got how it's a controversial topic. And then you jump into how Spears does it. And then you talk about how Spears deals with the controversy that gets raised. Then, after explaining his plan, and then you go into statistics about teens, how much they know and how willing they are to learn. Then you go into jobs, and then you come back to talk about specific lesson plans. So I think it would make more sense, perhaps, if you started with, and I'm just giving you some suggestions here, you could start with the whole information about how teens, children are actually more interested in learning and more open to learning, because that would help your audience understand why you're suggesting this particular action in the first place. Then you might talk, you've got Spears, you might have other lesson plan stuff, instead of having Spears and then a bunch of stuff and then going into other lesson plans, group together the information about what kind of information do you think they should get in these lessons, Nicole? Who has stuff available to them and all that. So that would make sense. How to avoid controversy. So the Spears is an excellent example of that. That's a really lovely piece of information you found. So certainly put that in. And then have the paragraph about, look, it doesn't even cost that much money to do this because there's so many resources. It's not like I'm asking you to buy a whole new curriculum or something. All right. And it'll help you to do all this organization if you work on topic sentences. Now, I didn't do topic sentences really until I got to graduate school, but I require them in all my students' writing because it makes it so much easier to follow what you're saying. So this is just a writing habit that is going to be a different one for you to do in this class than what you've probably done before. But if you look, say, at page 1 on the second paragraph, what is the main point of this paragraph? As I said, it seems to kind of jump around a little bit. So if you're more clear right from the beginning of that paragraph about what your main point is, it'll help you to know what goes in the paragraph and what does not. Top of page 2, your first sentence there talks about controversy, but then the rest of the paragraph is really more about how this particular lesson plan works, and you don't talk about controversy again until the next paragraph. So whatever's in your very first sentence of the paragraph, needs to match what's in the rest of the paragraph. And please, this is one of those things that's probably easier to do with someone else than by yourself. So please come by my office, and our tutors also have training in this, and we'd be glad to work with it. Okay. Yeah. So to get full credit, you need to get those peer-reviewed sources in there, but you're making good progress, and look forward to working with you further.